In 1346, the English army prepared to launch a massive invasion of France. But before a single sword was drawn, the English crown faced a severe, private crisis that nearly derailed the entire campaign. This is King Edward III. He believed his bloodline gave him a legal right to the French throne, spending years gathering resources to take it. This map outlines the vast scale of his planned campaign. The military marches traced deep into French territory, illustrating a logistical nightmare that required absolute focus from the English leadership. Yet, as the fleet readied for departure, Edward abandoned his war council. He became entirely consumed by an obsession with a noblewoman in his own court, a fixation that threatened to shatter his moral authority. The object of his attention was the Countess of Salisbury. Edward's interest quickly morphed from polite admiration into a dark, suffocating infatuation. She was already married, but Edward ignored that fact. He tried to corner her, using the immense, unquestionable authority of the crown to pressure a subject into submitting to his demands. The Countess fought back without ever raising a hand. She used Edward's own laws of chivalry against him, repeatedly reminding him of his vows and refusing to bend to a ruler acting without integrity. She forced him to confront a harsh reality. If a sovereign king cannot control his base impulses or uphold his moral code at home, he lacks the basic legitimacy required to conquer and govern a foreign kingdom. Faced with her uncompromising defiance, Edward finally broke his own spell. He pulled back, abandoned his pursuit of the Countess, and regained command of his senses. With his focus restored, the king ordered his forces across the Channel, turning his attention away from his private temptations and toward the French coast. Riding beside him was his son, Edward, known later as the Black Prince. He was young, entirely untested in combat, and stepping into his first major military campaign. The king had just fought a quiet battle to secure his own honor. Now he needed his heir to survive a violent, highly public trial to prove he had the right to lead England. That trial happened at the Battle of Crecy. The English army found themselves facing a French force that was vastly larger, heavily armored, and highly confident of an easy victory. To survive, the English relied on strict battlefield discipline. They dug in on a carefully chosen ridge, forcing the massive French army into a narrow, uphill bottleneck. Look at this illustration of the English archers. Their primary weapon was the longbow, outranging anything the French carried. A trained longbowman could fire 10 arrows a minute. When thousands fired at once, the sky turned black, tearing through tightly packed medieval formations. Here, you can see the direct clash between the English archers on foot and the mounted French cavalry. The French reliance on slower crossbows and heavy armor proved useless against the rapid, piercing volley of the longbows. But the longbows couldn't protect everyone. In the thickest part of the melee, the French forces managed to surround the vanguard, the exact unit commanded by the young Black Prince. As the prince's men faced slaughter, desperate messengers pushed through the lines to find King Edward. They begged him to send his reserve troops to save his son, presenting the king with the ultimate test of his newly restored leadership. Edward looked at the messengers, surveyed the battlefield, and flatly refused to send help. Having just learned the bitter cost of cheap power, Edward knew he could not hand his son an easy rescue. The boy had to earn his honor himself. Left entirely on his own, the Black Prince fought viciously. He rallied his terrified men, broke through the French encirclement, and secured a massive victory against impossible odds. Edward's cold refusal forced the prince to rely on his own grit. That single, brutal decision turned a privileged royal heir into a hardened, highly respected military commander. By the time the dust settled, England had won 2 battles. The king had defeated his own destructive desires, and his army had crushed the French military. The Black Prince's legacy was forged permanently in the mud of Crecy, immortalized later in this golden armor. The Countess of Salisbury's integrity refocused Edward's priorities. It gave him the perspective to let his son struggle at Crecy, ensuring the next ruler of England was forged through actual combat rather than royal favor. To truly rule, a sovereign must first master himself. If you want to see how other historical leaders grappled with their own profound flaws to shape the world, click the video on your screen right now.